Hi, I'm Life Coach Landry, and the topic is the truth about online dating. So I'm going to jump right in here. I'm going to give you five things that really kind of give you some truths that you need to be aware of if you're new to online dating or you're not having, much success in person. You're thinking about moving into the online dating sphere. Okay, so I'm going to name a couple things for you, and I will be doing a segment that will be called 10 ways to tell if your online date is a scammer. So be on the lookout for that if you want to get into specifics about scamming and whatnot, because I'm only going to cover that briefly. This is going to be more of a generality around how online dating works and some of the prospects that you can expect, pros and cons wise. Okay. Now, browsing profiles isn't nearly as time consuming or daunting as mixing with people in a social. And statistics show that 1 in 5 relationships begin online nowadays anyways. However, 50% of online dating is taking place. So that doesn't mean you're going to meet them online, as in they're going to end up being the person you're going to be with. But it does show that people are putting a significant emphasis on online dating. Okay, so number one, people lie on their online dating profiles. Okay, this is hardly earth-shattering information, but people want to be appealing, and most people wouldn't be surprised to learn that it is more common for people to lie in their online profile than it is to be completely honest. Okay, a study of over 1,000 online daters in the U.S. conducted by a research company found some very interesting statistics. A total of 53% of people admit to lying on their profile. Women apparently were found to lie more than men, and most common dishonest was about looks. Over 20% of women posted photos of their younger selves versus a picture that was within the same year that they were actually making their profile online. But men were only marginally better. Their most common lie revolved around their financial situation, specifically about having a better job financially than they actually do. More than 40% of men indicated that they did this, but the tactic was also employed by nearly a third of women. So that should give you a little statistic right there that 50% of women are lying on their profiles, and 20% of them out of the 50% that are lying are specifically about posting younger photos. And more than 40% of men are lying, and the majority of their lie lies around their financial stability and career. Okay. Number two, looking for a relationship, that must mean all you want is sex. Okay. So one of the bigger problems with online dating for women is that although there are genuine relationship seeking men on these sites, there are also plenty of guys that are simply looking for a hookup. And while most people would agree that on average men are more eager for sex than women, it seems that many men make this assumption that if a woman has an online dating presence, she's interested in sleeping with her dates as well. And which is true to an extent once a woman becomes comfortable. However, men are more likely to want to sleep on the first date. Now, remember what my rule is on my dating tips. If you're comfortable in the night and the chemistry, go with whatever you feel fine with. It's okay to have sex on a first date. Because if a man really likes you, he's going to call you regardless whether you have sex on the first date or the third date or the ninth date. It's all a matter of if he really actually wants to pursue you. So if you're not comfortable because you're not sure about that, well, then just don't have sex on the first date. Because online dating does represent convenience of being able to meet others that you possibly would never meet otherwise. But women should be aware that they probably will receive some messages with some sexual aggression, and often men looking to provide pics or they want to receive pics. Now, that doesn't mean that all men have bad intentions. Some men are actually looking to see more of you, to get more comfortable visually and see if their attraction level is where it needs to be to actually want to pursue a date with you. And that's okay. It depends on the type of photo they would like to get from you. So if somebody says, I'd like to get a photo, can you send me a full body pic? That's not always sexual. Sometimes men just want to make sure you're not hiding something, because women, their biggest lie, and men know this in online dating because it's told to them in surveys and to watch out for scamming, that women will often post pictures that aren't reflective of them currently. Okay. Now, remember, women have an easier time finding men, but men have an easier time finding quality women. There are many more quality women that men will run into on dates than there are men of quality that women will run into. So believe it or not, dating for men is actually easier because when they do get a date, it's usually with somebody that's likely going to be quality, whereas a woman, it has a 50-50 shot of getting a man of any kind of substance. Okay. Now remember, this doesn't mean you should be totally skeptical of dating. There are pros and cons. We're just talking about the truth right now that most people may not be aware of. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to do a segment, 10 ways to tell if your online date is a scammer. So be on the lookout for that. Number 3 is negotiating the scam to net. Basically, let's be honest, the internet is really just a super elaborate, sophisticated farce designed to get money out of your pocket by greasy, con men. I'm kidding. Not quite, but it is full of, unscrupulous vendors looking to separate you from money. So their intentions may not be what you're looking for. So be wary when you're looking through sites, okay? But scams have been around for a long time. They didn't come about because of the internet or online dating. It's not about the site and everything like that. The scam comes from the people who sign up to create profiles and start to pursue. Of course, there are pitfalls and tripwires in every sphere of life, but this may be, true in a context of online dating for sure. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of online scammers. Remember, I told you I'm going to do a segment, 10 ways to tell if you're an online date is a scammer, okay? But as a matter of fact, you should probably be wary of any person, group, or entity asking for any kind of financial or personal information. Now, that doesn't mean what area do you live in. I mean, if you live in New York and someone says, "Oh, I live in Ithaca," or "I live in whatever area you want to live in," that's okay. It's when people are asking specifically for your address when there's no plans to actually meet. They're just trying to get random information. So set up an anonymous email account if you feel comfortable with that, and but iheartscamming@gmail.com is probably already taken, so don't look for that one. But never give out your home phone address or personal email address unless you absolutely are trying to set up a date or you've got enough dates where you're comfortable with giving that information. But drive yourself to the date. Your date doesn't need to know where you live. Like I said specifically, keep an eye out on your drinking food if you're going to be at a bar or something like that. But, and this goes for men too. Men, you are scammed just as much as women are. And in my segment that I'm doing, 10 ways to tell if your online date is a scammer, specifically, women have become really good at scamming men out of money and free dinners and things like that. And I'm going to talk about that in that segment. But of course, there are, lots of do's and don'ts, but, this is all just to give you information. So number 4, relationships don't last, right? Never mind the fact that more than 1/3 of all people who use online dating sites have never actually gone on a date. So even though we're meeting more people per se online, we're not actually pursuing long-term relationships dominantly yet. The in-person world is still got a hold on that. So those that somehow do manage to find themselves willing to marry and who is willing to marry them, face an uphill battle. According to research conducted by, a university, relationships that start out online are 28% more likely to break down in their first year. And like I said, this goes into a lot of compatibility factors. The problem is because you meet out of convenience, you likely overlook things that should be talked about before having a serious relationship. See my videos on successful relationships, compatibility, and things like that to understand that when you're dating, the things you should actually be looking for versus the things you're doing. Remember, dating should be fun. Just because I'm giving you information that's coming from a neutral standpoint of what to be wary of and to understand a little more, doesn't mean that there are plenty of successful relationships out there right now that are doing completely fine and they met online. Okay. I know a couple that met and within 1 week they got married and they've been married for 3 years still. Sometimes people just know, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you need to, get weary of anything or anything like that. You still want to pursue dating. It's just like anything. Even when you meet someone in person at work, you should be cautious of who you're talking to. Okay. So, in other words, it's not all misery and woe. While the overwhelming majority of romantic relationships still begin online, about 5% of Americans that are currently either in a committed relationship or a marriage suggest that it did in fact start online. Okay. So that's okay. Online dating is going to become more dominant as we get further into the years. And likely they said by the year 2025 that online dating will make up 55%. So it will take over in-person dating. So to close it out, number 5, I would say online dating, it can make you picky and very judgmental. It's very easy to send one course back or even after another when the menu is overflowing with lots of potential courses, right? And the way to think about it from a psychological science, studies and things like that have found that reviewing multiple candidates causes people to become judgmental. It means that when you see someone you like, you should actually email them. You should communicate. You should set up a phone call. You shouldn't just browse through them and put them in your favorites. Okay, putting people in your favorites is a waste of time. Okay, you're not there to save a list of potentials. What you're there to do is when you see someone you like, you're there to pursue it. And inclined to dismiss and not quite perfect candidates that would otherwise be a face-to-face meeting. We've all, probably pushed away somebody that ended up being a really good person that we met when we actually met them in person versus kept them to an online kind of stage. Okay. So remember, this is just informational. This is just to give you an idea of what to expect out there and some truths for yourself and some pitfalls to, keep yourself away from and things like that. And remember, my next upcoming segment may not be my next one, but it will be in the next couple of weeks. It's 10 ways to tell if your online dating is a scammer. That question has been really important to a lot of people, so I really wanted to wrap up a segment on that. But, remember, dating should be fun. Enjoy the experience. Don't go on a date with I'm definitely not going to do this, or I'm definitely not. Just whatever you're comfortable with, learn to enjoy the experience and stop thinking about the day after. Just go for the moment, and if it ends up being a building block, you will see that person again, okay? And if you're having problems dating right now or struggling in the online dating world and you'd like to book a personal session, contact me at the email below. And if you found this information of value, you can show your appreciation by clicking on the donation link below, and I will talk to you soon.